Dear participants, we have Professor N. Nagaraja sir as a resource person for this afternoon lecture session. Professor N. Nagaraja sir is presently serving as a professor in the Department of Studies in Commerce. In fact, he obtained his master degree M.Com and PhD from University of Mysore, and MBA, MA in Economics, PGDM, PGDFM, Diploma in Management from Indira Gandhi National Open University, and he is also qualified with NET and SLET. His area of specialization is financial management, cost and management accounting, and actuarial science. Just to put in more than 25 years of teaching, research, and administrative experience to his credit. In fact, he started his career as a senior lecturer at World Business Institute Knowledge Village of Dubai, UAE, wherein which he served up to 2007. Then he joined University of Mysore as a lecturer in the year 2007. Immediately, he has been appointed as reader in the Department of Studies in Commerce in 2007. He has been later elected as an associate professor in the year 2010, and then as a professor in the year 2013. He also served as a chairman in the Department of Studies in Commerce from 18 to 20. And under the able guidance of Dr. Nagaraja sir, 18 students obtained their PhD degree and 6 are at present pursuing. And he also, under his able guidance, 15 students obtained MPhil also. He also completed a major research project sponsored by UGC as a deputy coordinator, and he published more than 35 research articles in nationally and internationally reputed journals, and presented more than 60 papers in various conferences, workshops, seminars of national and international importance. He is a member of many BOS, BOE, and BOA at many universities, and fellow member of the Academy of Business and Retail Management of UK, and editorial board member of many journals related to commerce and management. And he also successfully served as a course coordinator of research course in commerce at our HRDC earlier, and is a regular research person to various HRDCs in India. With this brief resume, brief introduction, I welcome wholeheartedly Professor N. Nagaraja sir to this online lecture session. Over to Professor Nagaraja sir.
Please, Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Please, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah. Can you see my slides? All of you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Cost management.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, very good afternoon, all the participants.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. I think most of you, our own students, are participating.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. So, as you're all teaching commerce students, so far I have witnessed many universities. I have seen cost and management accounting. They have been teaching. Of course, you are from different universities, and will be confining to your own syllabus, framework, etc. Now, my interest is there is something we have to study beyond costing, beyond cost accounting. So earlier we were talking about an advanced version of cost accounting, management accounting, historical accounting. These three things we are very well familiar. Well, we're all well versed. It may not be an exaggeration if I say, no, my teacher was teaching me the cost accounting. Perhaps his teachers were teaching cost accounting. Perhaps many of my students, you also learned cost accounting here. I myself taught costing and management accounting for you. But what the cost accounting we have studied, costing we have studied, is entirely different from what they are practicing in the real world. Therefore, as scholars, as teachers, so definitely there is a need for us to envisage new dimensions of costing, a blend of cost and management. So that in the University of Mysore, in our own department, we initiated a thing and we introduced a paper on cost management, especially for M.Com students. So very rarely these papers are then introduced. Of course, many universities are offering now. So since last 10 years, we are trying to do some exercise on this. That is the reason for starting cost management. So if I split cost and management, I am sure all of you are well versed with these two words, cost and management. But when it is clubbed together, So all of a sudden, we might think, what is this cost management? We know cost, we know costing, cost accounting, everything. And independently, we're also knowing and familiar with the management principles, styles, everything. So when we blend it, when you mix these two words, we look into a different dimension of the subjects what we are taught. If it is pure cost and costing, definitely we aim at the methods of costing and techniques of costing and things like that. Now we are looking for managing the cost. I hope it's very clear, audio is clear to all of you. So earlier we are managing resources, human resource management or financial resources or whatever the resources. So managing resources is entirely different. Cost management. So we were thinking hitherto, rather a few years, we were thinking cost is an expenditure alone, incurred or likely to be incurred at the time of production. These theoretical definitions, all of you are well versed. Now, how to manage the cost? So something which is already incurred can be managed or should be managed is a dilemma. So therefore, this paper, in this 1 hour discussion, let us have some new ideas related to this. So what I want to say is cost, when it has to be managed. So we talk about the cost control technique, cost reduction techniques, and so many things we have been witnessing and we have been dealing with those things. How to manage that? Cost is already incurred or likely to be incurred. Cost is projected, it may be a forecasted cost, something like that. So we have to manage those predetermined costs as well, or the projected cost or the estimated cost. So normally what we say, there is a difference with the actual cost and the standard cost or the estimated cost. I'll get the variance and these things that are familiar. But here in this competitive global scenario, we accept in some textbooks in the classroom teaching what is standard cost, what is the standard quantity, standard rate, and things like that, actual cost, actual rate. It's very difficult to trace some of the cost these days. So it is even very difficult to visualize the cost component. Rather, even it is very difficult to come across the exact elements of cost. So earlier we talked about the elements, we talked about the material, labor, overhead, and things have changed. Now, many organizations, especially service-oriented IT information, IT embedded services, information technology units, or industry, they might not have the real cost related to the material. They might have the labor, they might have other overheads. So those things had made us to think something unique, something differently, to blend the actual things which are going on the real business world. So that is the initiation behind choosing this subject or this topic for today's discussion. Okay, this is the background. So normally cost is incurred, cost is past, it is dead past. So as we know very well, financial limitations of financial accounting is historical accounting, dead past. We don't want to think about the dead past. We are always looking for, the living presence or the unborn future. The living presence is the cost that we are incurring, and the unborn future is talking about the taking the decisions, appropriate decisions, such as whether to produce or not to produce, or make or buy decisions, shutting down the entire unit. So this all the nomenclature under which we study the cost. But now there is an umpteen opportunity for us to think about the competition. There is a direct relationship between the cost and the competition. There is a direct relationship between the products which we are producing and managing those products in terms of cost. So that is why a thing of this kind is initiated and we are dealing. So we expect the things, especially in the market nomenclature. We talk about the brand loyalty. We talk about the brand product satisfaction. We talk about the market segmentation. All these things are fine. But when it is referred to the cost aspect, it may be the behavioral aspect of the cost. You can't confine to only behavioral aspect. It can be either fixed cost or variable cost or semi-variable cost. and things have changed now. It has crossed the borders of all these things. That is why we have to coin different way. So competition is prevailing. For that, there should be a tailor-made costing strategy. Those strategies must be appropriately managed to arrive at the same cost. So that is the first and the foremost thing. The competitiveness, competing ability of the product as well as the producer will have a definitely direct relevance with the cost, and managing that predicted or forecasted cost in one aspect. And we expect the customers to be satisfied from our product, and customer satisfaction is the result of the cost as well, the result of the price as well. And those things generate the loyalty also. So loyalty is at the cost. We are getting the loyalty of the customers at a cost, but we are unable to determine or rather precisely measure that cost. And the customers are satisfied with our product, and the product satisfaction is the outcome of many variables, which is not traced in the real costing methods. So therefore, we are trying to introduce this subject in all undergraduate as well as postgraduate level in the days to come. So now we are incurring the product cost, producing the products, we are committing the mistakes. So here in the prevailing of the competitive world or the global scenario, we never ever get the second chance to rectify our mistakes. That is what the scenario here. So we used to say earlier, history would repeat. No, there is no scope for us to repeat such history here, because if you repeat the same mistake, you'll be thrown out of the competition of the market mercilessly. So here, as we understood, there is no scope for the second mistake to be committed. We should be very, very cautious and careful about the cost and the elements in which we are dealing with. So these days, earlier we were talking about product, how the product is produced, what is the cost involved, all these nomenclatures, definitions, the words, the terminologies, all of us are familiar. So now the product is straight away eliminated in most of the businesses in this competitive world. All those things are referred under a broad terminology called a project. Product has been replaced, or rather being replaced, with the term project. So we will be focusing everything in the term related to project, and what would be the project cost management. So earlier we were talking about we are doing a business. This is the cost we are projecting for the business. No, we are saying the word is talking about the project. So what is the cost of the project? So we are moving in those lines. So therefore, there is a need for us to blend all these things in a manner in which we can manage the cost with the help of the principles of management, with the help of the forecasting technique, with the help of the statistical tools and technique, as well as the cost accounting techniques, which are helpful for us for decision making. So we are not just confining at identifying the cost per unit or cost per hour or cost per passenger mile or cost per ton or cost per kilogram. No, those days are fading away. Of course, we are adopting newer technologies, newer methods, newer nomenclature to identify those things. So now let us take a simpler discussion in this hour available. And I request all of you to initiate this at your colleges whenever you are dealing with the cost management, cost accounting, as well as management accounting. Would be, throwing some light on the minds of the youngsters to compete themselves, to cope up themselves with the prevailing competitive techno-based business world. That would be the intention. So now, moving to the second slide, you will come to know What is cost management? Now you understood the background of the study, what I mean to say. So what is cost management? So this is the literature. You can summarize with that. So it is a process of planning, controlling the cost associated with running business. So earlier we are saying in a decent manner, in a different manner. Now we are also talking about the process of planning, controlling. So principles of management, if you see in one hand, it is planning, it is organizing, it is budgeting, it is directing, whatever it is. So all such things, cost management is blended, means it is a process of planning, controlling the cost associated with the running of the business. So earlier we are talking about product when you are producing job costing or unit costing or process costing or operating costing. So we are having some limitations regarding such determination. But now the whole thing is termed as cost management. It is a process involved in planning, controlling, planning as well as controlling the cost associated with running this business. That is the simplest definition. Cost management practices can be applied to specific projects. So now, as I said, instead of the product, we'll be focusing about the projects. The specific projects the company is initiating or operating, whatever it is. So in these days, we talk about boot models, building so many things, building, owning, operating, and transferring. So when that is the reality, how to trace the cost? So therefore, this technique, this method of costing, this process involved in the cost management, definitely it is possible for us to determine the actual expenditure, the forecast expenditure, etc. So cost management is defined as the process of controlling the business budget. Remember, we are studying independently the budgeting as a separate aspect, cost as a separate aspect, but cost management is defined as the process of controlling the business budget. So the whole budget scenario, when we prepare the budget itself, we'll exercise so many things and we try to control the cost in the initial level itself. So that is the beauty of it. It helps to predict the business expenses to avoid over budget. So it may be variance. So much before the variance could occur, in the initial stage itself, we are trying to control or exercise for some control on this one. That is the meaning of that. Why to adopt cost management for businesses is a question everybody should have in your mind. So it is a strategy. Cost management itself is a strategy which is very, very essential for business as it helps in pricing the goods and services. So these strategies are being devised by most of the business schools and they are teaching it, and that has been practiced in most of the software industry. Most of the companies, they are adopting these things, and before launching a new project, they'll be determining what is the actual or the budgeted, rather the real budgeted expenditure required. So that they will devise a strategy where to operate. For instance, most of you know, in the last 2 years of this pandemic, many software companies, they suggested that you have to work from home. They initiated this culture, and all of you are familiar with the merits of those systems. So most of the leading companies, they are of the opinion that during those period of working from home culture, the cost has drastically come down. Their operating cost has drastically come down because of the situation, because of the circumstances. They asked them to work from home, which has eliminated many of the overheads. Many leading companies, even the small ventures, small business houses, they could come out with an opinion that that has resulted the cost. When the total cost has come down during their operation, now they find it is a viable strategy, the most suitable strategy that can be initiated. Suppose that there are people working in Bangalore, which is considered to be the Silicon Valley of India, and the same people are available for the same project, that the projects are maybe in the US linked or US related one or UK related one. They in Bangalore, they are working for Indian rupees. Instead of paying few $1,000s, maybe $10,000, $8,000 per month, So without coming across any of these hurdles, maybe processing their visa, providing the other facilities, insurance, etc. So if this culture is developed in such a way that they can work from home in Bangalore, where their task is over, that is there's a strategy which they are devising instead of multiplying by the currency rate. So without even multiplying by so many percentage, the cost is drastically come down. So many companies, especially in Bangalore, they're especially multinational companies, they have initiated this and it has become a practice. So therefore, we should know understand the circumstances. Based on that, we should be able to measure the efficiency as well in terms of cost saving, in terms of cost reduction. So cost saving and the cost reduction is the outcome of the strategy which these practitioners are devising. That's what we can see from this slide. And it helps in managing the cost, aligning the business strategy of an entity. So it also blends with total expenditure, managing the cost and the aligning with the business strategy of an entity. Whole business, the cost can be computed. So many of the things, most of the times when we are dealing with the cost accounting, preparation of cost sheet, etc., it's very difficult because we have a narrow mind saying that train costs, other works costs, and factory, whatever the cost with that we are adding maybe production overheads or selling and distribution overhead. So in the days to come, in the near future, it might be very difficult for the students or the learner to identify what type of cost that they are incurring. So therefore, when that is on the way, it is most appropriate for us to redesign and reframe many of these things which are being practiced. So that is the reason behind this venture. With the cost management, unexpected costs can be dealt easily as and when they occur. So sometimes, as we know, maybe it may be a sinking cost or sunk cost or some cost which we can't visualize. So such costs should be eliminated or projected or predicted or forecasted or anticipated. So such things are possible only when we have some strategy of this kind. That would be possible. So that is the need for adopting this strategy or this technique for the business house. So it is important. It is important. Why it is important? It is important to identify the cost that they're directly involved within the project, not the product. Product is different. Product is might be the outcome of the project. So the whole project will be in a position to identify the cost, which also ensures the expenses are approved before the purchases are made, before the actual payments are made. And unlike the actual costs are measured with the standard cost, before the incurring the actual cost, we'll measure the differences. So normally, what we say, a kg of raw material should be purchased at 10 rupees per kg. Actually, it was purchased for 15 rupees. That is a post-mortem. So here, that post-mortem process would be straight away eliminated, and we can easily keep all kinds of records for the cost that we're incurring, and we can control the overall cost. So we can use this as a strategy, means it is a device which is very, very essential for the pricing of our own products. So many hidden costs we will not be in a position to disclose. And most of us, even commerce teachers, commerce graduates, when they go to the shops, when they often visit the malls or the shop, they say, what is the cost of it? So for a buyer, you will simply say, what is the cost? Whatever you ask, the seller will say, this is the price, that's the price, but he may not say the price. So you will quote the amount. But what is quoting is the price, not the cost. But without our knowledge, consciously or unconsciously, even we don't hesitate. Sometimes we'll ask what is the cost of it. Nobody will be in a position to reveal the actual cost, because As you know, the fundamentals, the cost plus profit only, it is included there, then only they can quote the price. But here, when you look into the overall, the project cost, it is possible for us to have a control on the expenditure that we are going to incur much before the actual payments are made, actual delivery is made, or actual purchases are made. So that is the advantage of this one. It helps in managing the whole entity. That is very, very important. And it keeps the central record of all the costs incurred and control the overall cost. So that is possible when we have a cost management system. So next one, what does it include? That is a very important thing. What are the components of cost management? So what are the components of cost management? So cost management will be successful when we are in a position to budget our expenditure, when we are in a position to derive, or rather in a position to visualize the probable outcome of the project, or the likelihood of those benefits which we are going to derive from the implementation of such projects, and what are the expenditure that we are incurring, or what is the amount of money that we are spending out of the budgeted cost. Budgeted cost, I'm saying, what is the actual expenses, maybe running expenses, operating expenses, or recurring expenses, all funding activities, from which source we are mobilizing the funds, and finally what is the return on our investment. So all these things, elements or components, so constitute the cost management. The first one is the budget, as I said. Then much before the actual cost, we'll be forecasting, we'll have the blueprint of it. Along with that, we'll also have the benefits. Suppose we spend this much, suppose we have a budget allocation of this much, this is going to be the outcome. So independently, we deal all these aspects so far. In cost accounting, only the actual cost was recorded and divided by number of units of the quantity we used to get per unit. And expenditure, it is separate. And I used to arrive at the profit and loss account and historical accounting. But here, at the time of preparing the estimation, the budget only, we'll also keep in our mind the probable benefits or likelihood of the benefits which we are going to derive. For instance, we are spending on advertising. So that is normally we prepare the advertisement budget. So when you spend so much of money on the advertisement, what is the benefit that we are going to devise or derive? So obviously you should be in a position to say that this is the volume of sales that I'm going to increase. As a result, there is the marketing strategy you can devise, and the production strategy you can devise, and the selling strategy you can coin. You can eliminate straight away. You can eliminate your competitors. For example, most of the multinationals, they are into this strategy. All of you are familiar with a very simple example like Pepsi and Coke. So very simple product. Most of us are addicted to this drink, Pepsi or Coke. You just give a minute of yours and think what is the strategy behind that. Pepsi is brown, Coke is also brown. Pepsi is orange, Coke is also orange. One is Fanta and other one is Mirinda. Pepsi is into Aquafina and Kinley is into Coke is into Kinley. So they, in the process of competition, straight away they eliminated the third man from the scene. There is no third man we can compete just like the Pepsi or Coke. So they are parallelly, though they are the arch rivals, straight away many incapable operators straight away eliminated because they budgeted, they also understood the benefits that they are going to capture or enjoy over a period of time. For instance, many of you, perhaps when you were in school, we used to have a brand like Torino. It's a local brand. So I don't think you will get a Torino. It is straight away eliminated from the market. It is perished from the market. Rather, any of these people must have captured that or merged with them. So that is the strategy what they devise, just calculating the cost per liter or cost per bottle. So they also devise what would be the budget they need to eliminate the competitors. Or rather, they also prepared a blueprint of ruling the market, how long they can rule the market. So 20 years ago, all these things were there with these multinationals or foreign brands, which we did not understand. For instance, when Nokia entered the market, Indian market 20, 25 years ago, it entered the market with a very huge geometry box size mobile phone weighing 250, 300 grams, costing 20,000 rupees. So that was a grand strategy. So that with white mobile, they ruled for years. They ruled this country. They were the monopolists. They budgeted how to produce and what are the sources of production, etc. Remember, those days, perhaps you may not be knowing it, none of the products which are manufactured and sold, even in the Nokia showroom, they never mentioned where they are manufactured. If you have that old antique set at home, you can just open the set and see that you come to know that it is made by Nokia. Never they mentioned. That was a grand strategy that they devised regarding that. So gradually, when other competitors entered them, so maybe LG or Ericsson or Samsung then, so they also slightly started modifying their own product to compete with them. But with this grand strategy of Nokia, they could not survive for a longer period. And ultimately, so other people entered the market and they cope up with them also. And today you see what the market that they have and how many operators are having. What was sold for 20,000 today it is straight away eliminated, and it is and there is no takers if somebody is offering a black and white mobile even for 1,500 rupees. So therefore, what is the benefit? They rule the market, they captured the whole country, and they devise most of the profits. And it is a strategy that they devise. They could manage the cost with the help of the benefits also. And they were very sure of how much money that they are spending and what are the expenses they're incurring, how to eliminate the competitors, from which source they're funding, and what is their return on investment. It was very, very clear for them much before entering the market. They devised all these strategies. As a result, they became the leaders. Same thing was devised by Toyota. Perhaps when also not liberalized, many cars started in Indian market. There were no third car when we were in school or when I was in school, except the ambassador here. There were no other cars. Later, we could see many cars in Indian market. Toyota, they entered the market, and today you know what is the market share of Toyota in India. Forget about other part of the world. So the Toyota, they entered Indian market with this strategy, costing everything. They entered the Indian market with a brand or a product which they failed miserably in the rest of the world. The first product what they entered Indian market 2.5 decades was Toyota Collis. So they had a production unit, they were producing all the cost, you know the history of that. And they came with the Indian market with Toyota Collis, and it was a grand success. They never ever imagined that Toyota Collis would be so popular in Indian market. Of course, hardly you could see Toyota Collis these days. So the Toyota Collis was the most popular, most failure brand of Toyota. Perhaps you may be knowing the story. Toyota Collis was the most failure because Collis was a vehicle which was used in China to shift the dead body from the hospital or the house to the burial ground. So that the stigma that they have. So this Collis is a vehicle that is used for shifting the dead bodies. So that the whole world refused it. When they came to India with that failure product, that was a grand success. They could utilize all these budgets which were allocated for Collis. They manufactured most of the units, they exhausted their capacity, and finally, without giving any clue, they abandoned the production of policy itself. And the people are aware it's a very good vehicle, and they captured the market. And gradually, they started releasing other vehicles, which were now very familiar and successful in India. So, with they withdrew Collins, they introduced Innova. So again, people in Indian market, we are very happy because much superior than Hollis, a much more better vehicle they launched. Again, it started clicked. They again ventured in Indian market with some other product, which then the rest of the world was branding that as a taxi. Was used as a taxi rest of the world, whereas it was when it was introduced in Indian market, it could become the luxurious car, one of the luxury cars. And gradually other variants they pumped in. Still very recently, they never ever tried to introduce the finest car of Toyota. Suppose you are in Karnataka, hardly you could see the finest car of that is Lexus, hardly you could see 10, 20 cars. They're not gone in a larger scale of introducing the best cars. So they captured all the benefits. They enjoyed all the benefits because they devised this cost for production cost, for plant cost, for the whole project cost, for all these products. When they failed in the rest of the world, they wanted to maximize the returns of the profits without abandoning the product. They clicked it elsewhere, rest of the world. That was the plan, or that was the strategy that Tata has devised. So similar, these are the living examples which we come across in our own lifetime. So this is how they devise something, they blend something, they coming out of the other, requisites, they think out of the box, and definitely they are in a position to see, visualize something unique. So that's how those two success stories have emerged. So this is a blend, as I said. We have to include the budgets, we have to include the benefits, we have to see what is the money that we are going to spend on a particular project, what is the expenditure, maybe regular or recurring or non-recurring or one time, whatever the expenses, the source of funding which they are talking about, the return on investment that they are going to. So there is a hand in glove relationship between all these things. So they started strengthening each and every component rather than computing only the material labor overhead. So they started adding these elements into the chain. So they started strengthening the chain, and it has emerged as a great success. So they would visualize the limitations of the loopholes of the existing mechanism. So they eliminated all the weaker links in the chain of the existing system, and they strengthened it. So that is the beauty of the success of cost accounting, the cost management. Hope all of you are following. I think it's audible to everybody. So let us move to the next one. So when you see this diagram, definitely be a question to understand what is the process involved in the cost management. So just like cost accounting is a process involved here also in the management of cost management process. So we are first and the foremost phase of the process is installing the system. So we have to set up the plan. As I said, the components, it may be the expenditure, it may be the funding, it may be the return on investment. Of course, it's the tip of the iceberg. Return on investment will come across the final aspect. But much before the execution of the cost of the project, they will be visualizing the probable return on their own investment. So therefore, to visualize that, those things, identifying the components, identifying the variables which will impact on the performance of their own unit or their own products or their own projects, there is definitely a dire need for them to install a system, that is the cost management system. So we have to set up that system initially. That's the first thing, based on the need of the society, need of the market, need of the policy, need of the governance. So wherever they're operating, it may be Hindustan Unilever Limited, it may be Toyota, it may be Pepsi or anything. So where they're operating, they will have different plans, different set of plans, different set of mechanisms. So then they come out with the ideas which they are generating for their ventures. And the second phase, the second process is cost estimation and budgeting. So which we are familiar, we will be in a position to estimate the cost. But we hitherto in cost accounting, especially when it comes confined to the classroom teaching, we are teaching the elements of cost for our students and the material, labor, overhead, something like that. So all these things, and separately we are teaching and budgeting separately was teaching. Maybe the production cost budget or production budget. But now with this mechanism, we'll be estimating the cost along with the probable returns, probable risk involved. So risk return trade-off we will study in financial management, in financial literacy, financial nomenclature. But here, when we talk about costing, we'll also see the risk involved in cost, risk involved in implementation of a cost mechanism system or a cost management system. So days are not far, as I said, we'll be seeing the cost with the risk as well, not only the return and the risk. The expenses forecasted over a period of time will be utilizing just like our own expenditure budget, our own allocations are made. And we'll also prepare the recovery strategy for such costs. So far, we never ever think of the recovery. We calculate cost as an independent element and we operate independently. This is the likelihood of the cost that we are going to incur over a period of time for a project or something like that. But simultaneously, when we start estimating this cost, we'll be looking into the actual the returns that we are going to get. So what would be the number of units? What we talk about the break-even units in the management accounting to recover this cost. What are the units to be produced? What are the markets to be captured? Or other parameters we'll be using? What is the return on investment? What are the payback units? Or what is the payback period? All these things we'll be devising in the first instance itself. So that is the second phase. Now the third one is very important phase, is the cost control phase. So as you know very well, most of us we are initiating many ventures, many industrialists as well. This most of the government projects are fit for a best example. They start with some venture, some idea, some expenditure. By the time they reach some of the targets, maybe 80%, 90% of the goals or the products or the task or whatever it is, by the time they could envisage it, the cost will be escalating. So there is no proposal or the project of the government which is an exception to this technique. So most of the proposals made by or rather initiated by our own government, you come across escalation of cost. As you are all familiar, and most of you are from Mysore, I believe, or Mysore or Bangalore even to that extent. So there is now the government has initiated a fast track between Mysore and Bangalore, 6-track, 8-track roads and something like that. We could see the escalation of cost to the tune of hundreds of crores. Thousands of crores is an escalation, whereas 20 years ago, one of our cost accountants has proposed elevated road services to Mysore and Bangalore. Then people were laughing at him. Why do we need an elevated bus service or road service? But then he was proposed hardly for 500 crores. So today the same road is built around 4,000 crores or more than that, with an escalation of several times. So therefore, the management should also be in a position to see the cost recovery, the cost, what we are incurring, we should recover, not in terms of revenue, cost recovery first. So that is why they build the projects, they build the structures, they operate for a few years, they own for a few years, and they transfer to somebody. So that is boot model. Or they will also initiate Bolt model. They build, they own or operate either of the things, then they lease it for a few years and then they transfer. So during these phases, they realize the different methods, the mechanism, the undercurrents involved in it to arrive at their desired results. So the desired results could be met only with this kind of the strategies what they are talking about. So we have to analyze the actual cost in third phase, the controlling the cost. So we have to forecast the likelihood of the escalation as well. That is another important thing. So that is forecasting the adjustment required. Normally, we talk about the cost control techniques in the form of technique, inventory management technique. It may be FSN analysis, ABC analysis, classroom analysis, HML analysis, something like that. But here, the things have been liberalized. Anything you can outsource, anything you can obtain over a cell phone call. So when that is the scenario, due to the time constraint, there is no constraint here. Earlier, there was a lot of time constraint, and they used to dump the raw material. And most of the time, the quality of the raw material used to be, diluted, things like that. Now everything is under control, and this mechanism insists on the control technique as well. That is the third phase or the third process of cost management. And the fourth phase is the final phase, that is creating the key performance indicators. So you should know which are the key performing indicators. So when there is a project, in that project, there are several categories. Some categories or some activities are considered pure cost centers. Purely cost centers, if those activities or those things require purely expenditure, only cost center. They never ever derive any return or the revenue. And second, some categories are always be dealing with the revenue centers. And in some categories, some activities, they are considered to be the profit centers. So here we'll blend those things, which are the cost centers, which are the profit center, revenue centers, which are the profit center. Based on those activities, we inject the required funds, or the required allocation can be made, time constraints can be eliminated, the wastages can be eliminated, the production or the actual process bottlenecks can be eliminated. So these are the major utility that we are going to derive once these are all introduced. So that is related to the process involved in the cost management. So let us move to the phases of cost management. Next one would be the phases of cost management. So these are all identified universally accepted phases of cost management. The first phase, as you know, is the resource mobilization, resource planning. So that is the beginning of the beginning is the resource only. As you know, our resources, any economic resources, they are scarce in nature. They are not available in abundant quantity as and when we require. A lot of constraints are there. They are not easily available. So they are scarce in nature. As they are scarce in nature, they are also having optimal utilization. So we have to utilize those resources optimally to derive the maximum benefits. So therefore, the first and the foremost phase is the resource planning. So we have any manufacturing unit or any project, we have resource. Resource of the company might be different. Resource of business might be different. So we will be focusing on the resource of the project alone. So we'll plan those resources accordingly. So to plan those resources, as I said, they are limited in nature. They're also having optimal utility. Optimal utilization is the most by minimizing the cost. We have to maximize the benefits. So we make use of the available statistical tools and techniques. For instance, we make use of the the operation research. So extensively, we can make use of the linear programming as our resources are limited and opportunities are many. So we much before the execution of the projects or deriving or developing a product or producing the product, we plan in such a way the most optimal combination of the activities or the most optimal utilization of these things which maximize the profit. So whatever the resources available in terms of material, in terms of labor hours, in terms of manual hours, in terms of finance, in terms of overhead budgets, so those things can be categorically minimized. They eliminate the losses, maximize the profit through application of linear programming techniques, all those things which are a part of the operations research. And exhaustively and extensively, we can make use of the techniques which are available in the field of operations research. We can also make use of the techniques like PERT and CPM. We can make use of program evaluation review technique. So what are the activities which are dummy activity, which are not at all essential, which are the activities, very crucial activity, which requires continuous flow of materials or resources or hours, manual hours, casual hours. So those things can be visualized with the help of these techniques, as I said, PERT and CPM techniques. The next one is estimating the cost. As I said, this is the most probable, possible, profitable ventures of the activities of the project. We estimate with this cost, definitely we are in a position to produce those many units and capture the market and get the revenue and the fund, something like that. So that is the second phase, estimation. And third phase, we budget. If so many units are produced, or so many products are captured, or so many units are abandoned, not necessarily production alone, even the abandon of the product or the production of the unit. So what are the benefits that we are going to derive? So finally, the fourth stage is cost control phase. So resource planning, cost estimating, cost budgeting, and cost control. So these are all also applicable in earlier what we're talking about the materials management as well as the inventory management. So we were using different things. Still, I may not be wrong if I say in our classroom we are venturing and teaching our students with things like bin card. Those days are gone. It is washed away from the industrial scenario. Still, we ask them to learn something like bin card, etc. So now we have a different technique. We have to orient these techniques to our own younger generation, and definitely they are in a position to understand the present scenario of estimating the actual cost that we are incurring for the projects that we are undertaking. So these are all universally identified and accepted the phases of the cost management. Let's go to the next one. So these are all the new approach. This is a new approach to cost management. When you see this diagram, so there are most of the things are self-explanatory. As I said, is a new concept which has been adopted by most of the successful business tycoons, most of the corporates, most of the venturists. So they identify earlier cost was only in our mind. Now they say what is the value that they are creating by incurring the cost. In one hand, we talk about the cost, but now that cost should be resulting in the value addition. You see the central part of it. You have the cost, the value, the revenue, and there is hitherto in any of our existing literature, we never come across something like the cost and the risk. We are always familiar with the risk return trade-off or the profit. But now there is a dire need. We consciously should be in a position to measure or associate the risk what we are going to venture it. So what is the risk that we are going to abide or imbibe or adopt or admit? Those things should also be dealt. So that is the result of improving a particular position in the product or the market or the project. So there are many ventures, they are coming with a lot of new projects or something like that. So they will have a strategic position of their own, which makes them to arrive at the meaningful conclusion. So the cost, value, revenue will have a direct impact on improvising their own strategies or the strategic position in the market, and that results in improving the productivity as well. When they know their position, they are in a better position to produce appropriately. If there are no demand at all, if they are in the end place, there is no need for them to produce, so straight away they can eliminate all unavoided unwanted costs. If they are in the pioneers in the market, they are the leaders, they are the price leaders, they are the brand leaders, then they might to devise a different strategy. So when they identify their position in the market with their product or the project, definitely they are also in a position to know the satisfaction level of their customers. So when they are in a position to understand these three branches of their investment tree, the cost that they're incurring, definitely they are in a position to maximize the profit. Of course, they are all very, very glamorous to visualize something. If I do this, I can do this, I can achieve this. So that's the beauty of an optimist, but may not be possible always. It has having, as I said earlier, is having its own undercurrents, which might not be in a position to be, visualized by any of the businessmen. But being optimists, they will have all these things in their mind, and they try to maximize the profits. Once they are into this tree, they will be in a position to compete with the global leaders. So they can enter any market. Global leaders not necessarily the Indian producers should go to US and sell, or UK and sell. Even they should be in a position to compete with the global brands. Suppose, as I said earlier, we have Pepsi and Coke. They are arch rivals. One is orange, the other one is brown, something like that. At least a third operator or a producer in India should be in a position to compete and sell. I have a better drink than Pepsi and Coke. So they can visualize that. That would be intent. So they are in a position to compete with the global market. So that to compete with the global competition of the market, they must also have their own strength in their technology, what they're using. So all these things are possible when you are in a position to meet the customers, demands of the customers. So this is the outcome of all these things leads to the loyalty which you are building, the customer satisfaction that you are creating. The more degree of satisfaction that you are creating to your customers, definitely they are happy, and ultimately results in good revenue and the profit creation, wealth maximization. Through the cost, through the advent of cost technique, cost management technique, you will be reaching the pinnacle of wealth maximization. So therefore, there is a dire need for us to give an insight into these dimensions and understand something new in the area of cost accounting. So this is what the cost management for business, the techniques what we are adopting, cost management for business. These are the techniques which most of the business tycoons, most of the business operators, the leaders in the industry, they are adopting. Their cost is having a relevance with the market share. Their cost will have a relevance with the sense of the market, the pulse of the market. They move with the market. They simply don't produce and they expect people to buy, or they try to advertise something which is not there. No, definitely not. They want to have a sense, they want to feel the pulse of the market. That is also one of the techniques that they are adopting. And they make use of the most beautiful technology which is available. Remember, even the latest technology which is available in the world is the creation. The modern technology itself is the creation of the human brain. So therefore, human brain is much superior than the technology what is prevailing. So tomorrow there might be a different technology. So I must be in a position to cope up with the application and adaptation of that technology. Then only we can see the light in the other side of the shore. So that is very important. So you should feel the sense of the market. You should be in a position to adapt yourself to the technology, to know the process of your earlier phenomena of managing your own inventory. You are doing away with this bin card system. So we are, the whole world is talking about, we are Kanban systems, just-in-time technology. As and when it is needed, you can place the order. For instance, one more example, of course, there might not be time for all this. All of you are familiar with the pharmacy company by name Medfast, one of the pharmacy which is dealing in Karnataka and some part of the India. So there, this is the though there is a pharmacy or a medical shop in Mysore, you are in Mysore or Bangalore, Medfast. Not even once they make an invoice or make a demand for their materials, for their products. The whole project is divided and controlled by US. So there are software engineers from Bangalore, they're sitting in US, California, and they devise this in such a way, they route their requirement to the inventory management devices, what they devised, what they derived or designed. Suppose that one medical shop in particular area, it is exhausting the stock automatically, and they place the order from US. It is a auto device, so it is connected to a particular network, and through that network, immediately when the stock level reaches the bottom rock level or a danger level, zero level at the most, automatically it will be replenished by the particular distributor who is tagged to that system. So all such things, they never ever think of how many units were sold in Mysore or Bangalore and which brand. So everything is computerized and they're dealing with that. So there is actual cost. It's very tough in the existing system to determine what is the cost that they're incurring per order, or what is their economic order quantity, what is the reorder level. Everything is prefixed, and based on that, they will be getting the delivery of the products, and smoothly they are running their operation or business without any hindrance. So therefore, it is the most successful thing what we are witnessing. These are some of the advantages, as most of the advantages I already explained, which we are going to derive by the implementation of this technique. So there are slides, few more slides. I'll share the slides. You can take the printouts. Later you can ask the coordinator, he will give the printouts. You can study that because there is paucity of time. So these slides are very simple slides and self-explanatory slides. And you can copy that, because let us have some discussion, 10 minutes, instead of having a monotonous talk. Let us have some kind of discussion now. Okay, so you can stop at this stage. It will continue further. You can take the printouts. Let us have one discussion and any deliberation you want. Let us have something. I'm not concluding it. We'll continue the same discussion. It's not the conclusion. Yes, please. You can initiate. Anybody, you can start.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Savita here. Sir, managing cost is one of the greatest challenges for the organization as of today.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of competition persisting in the business environment.
Yeah.
Because there is global increase of companies because of privatization, globalization, and as well as liberalization.
Yeah.
So, in this current trend, any model or any specific choice for the companies where they can adopt in order to minimize the cost? Because cost ultimately determines the price of the product.
Yeah.
So in the current scenario, any specific models available for the business organizations in order to minimize the cost, sir?
Yeah, that is fine. That's a correct thing what we are talking about. That is the why I introduced this subject. Earlier, what we are talking, it is the estimation, the cost, this is the probable expenditure that we're incurring, this is the cost, this is the sales, this is the profit. So we are beating around only three things. The revenue minus cost is profit, revenue minus cost equals profit. So these are the days it is very, very tough to determine
The
what
price.
is the exact cost we are incurring. Some are hidden, some are not known at all. Some are traceable, some are not at all traceable.
Yeah.
So therefore, it depends. Ultimately, the goals are important. The goals are either to maximize your revenue, maximize your sales or volume or profit. So profit maximization is the only motto. So that is supported by other activities. So that is possible when you minimize the cost. So cost minimization is also one of the objectives. To minimize this cost, each and every organization, they will have their own devices. What is applicable to a pharmacy company may not be possible for a soft drink company. What is traceable in a IT embedded company may not be possible for a tire manufacturing company. Earlier, we were saying methods of costing, job costing, process costing, and operating costing, contract costing. We are confining our discussion only with that. But today, when things have changed, as you said, because of globalized scenario, liberalized scenario, so we have to express in different modes. That is the reason for advent of IFRS. So we are reporting everything in an internationally recognized, acclaimed, or accepted formats. So we are reporting most of the costs, most of the revenues, most of the expenditure in an international recognized standards. So therefore, instead of a model, the model differs from organization to organization. As you are a professor in a university, you will have your own techniques of minimizing your expenditure and maximizing your savings. Similarly, if some other fellow or a person in other university, he will have his own level of understanding of investment, of the returns, of the benefits, of the cost. So it differs. Though you are working in similar organization, your perception varies. Similarly, there is no uniformly accepted models where you can minimize the cost or you can maximize the profit. So models, you can see your competitors prevailing in the market, competitor price in the market, and based on that, you can compare your prevailing cost, prevailing expenditure, prevailing revenue. Then you can fine tune your own estimation, your own cost, your own revenue. There is nothing like a ready-made model.
Any cut and dry formula is not there.
Not at all. So over a period of time, they will exercise. They will come to know, oh, this is what redundant, this is scrap, outdated. Straight away they will. So devise something new.
Sir, when you look into the automobile sectors, from past 5 to 10 years, we can see many global players are
entering the
market. Entering the market. And one sad thing that our domestic, manufacturers are not able to compete with these players.
Best example in our own Mysore JK Tires.
Yeah.
When it was owned by Vikram Tires, every year they were successfully incurring losses. The moment it is handed over to JK Tire, they never incurred loss even for a single quarter. So our attitude also should change. Our urge should also change. You have to aim at perfection, ultimately the profit. So we are not in a position to compete with the global player because of our redundant expenditure, some cost which can be controlled, but they cannot be controlled. For instance, transportation cost.
Might be technology also.
Yeah, technology also.
Because if you take it like four-wheelers like MG, Kia and all, they are very well versed, equipped with the technology.
Yeah, that's
So even that is also one lacking of.
so, yeah, you are still in the infancy stage in many of the sectors. So we claim we are producing, doing everything. See, now Tata Automobiles, especially in four-wheeler segment, now they could come to the limelight. But 3 decades ago, they launched many beautiful cars, but they did not succeed.
Yeah.
Maybe Tata Sierra, Tata Mobile, Tata Estate, earlier brands.
Yes, yes.
But they failed. They miserably failed. Though they are the tycoon, they are leaders in the large sector like buses and the lorries, trucks. They could not succeed in those segments because they are not in a position to meet those things, meet the standards and expectations of some of these industries. So they failed. Then they understood their problems. So they merged. They could become the leaders after acquiring the leading brands in the world. Now they're
But
thinking,
today, to certain extent, they are in
they're
electronic
doing
vehicle
far better,
segment.
far better, far better.
Okay, some improvement is there, no, sir. So,
Yeah. Technology, they upgraded the brand, they capture, then they're doing it. Earlier, people are laughing at them. Though they are manufacturing cars, their cars are sounding like trucks and lorries. That's what the adage these Tata cars had. Tata Sierra, Tata Estate, Tata Mobile, those brands. Now they rectified their own mistake. As a result, they're leading the market.
yeah.
So that's there is no what I mean to say there is no tailor-made strategy for pricing their product or valuing their costs or estimating their costs. It is very difficult.
As you said, most of the businesses in Indian perspective are in infancy stage. So this is a very sad part. And what we have to do is we need to motivate our students
Yeah.
to
So
become
that's
educated.
why instead of saying in the sad, it's not sad. We're in the beginning of the beginning. Let us hope for the best. So instead of thinking about our dead past, we'll not repeat such mistakes anymore. We're trying to improvise it and hope that we'll become the leaders one day or the other.
Yes, sir. So
That
that is
quality
always
mind.
there. No, sir. As Indians, that is always there.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Savita.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Please.
Sir, I'm Dr. Ravi, sir. My question is today in globalized world, so many technologies advanced by the industries, manufacturing industries, sir. So it is a improved version of cost accounting.
Yeah.
So some of the techniques are used by the cost management. So in India and out of the countries. So
Yeah.
cost in different industries. So which is the most popular cost management technique, sir? I think ABC technique is there.
So some of the countries you are saying used not clear, audio is not clear. Some countries are using something that's all. Till then I could hear.
Sir, so my question is, which is the most popular technique in cost management, sir? Either ABC, activity-based costing techniques.
Yeah. So most of them, the whole world will confine to ABC only based on their activity instead of absorption costing or though they're making use of the techniques, the days are not very far. You know, every day will be in a position to trace the cost. As we know, what is the cost incurred per minute or per month or per quarter, per annum, those days are gone. Based on the activity, based cost only will prevail with the new nomenclature, the new designation. There cannot be any substitute for activity-based costing only. Different nomenclature we may use. So, but ultimately, we will be talking about only this dimension. So, activity-based cost will be there for few more decades. As I said to earlier participant, there is no device which is applicable or suitable for universal entity. So, activity-based costing is the base on which we will be able to trace the cost, maybe in the form of fixed cost or variable cost or all the details. So as of now, you can make a survey in in and around your vicinity, you'll come to know still they are into this type of system only. There is no upgradation, but activity-based cost will be there for a few more years.
Sir, but there are different techniques are there, no, sir, cost management.
Yeah.
Some of the techniques, APC one is there, sir, target costing is there, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whatever the technique that they are splitting and dividing and adopting, even for a branch, they have a different divide. What they have a different branch strategy may not be applicable to other parts of the station. So earlier, what we were talking about the different types of allocation of overhead, the same thing for different target, different group, different brand. Even we can have a different cost technique for different brands when you are producing depth of the product, the width of the product. In one unit, you can say it is the cost center. But when you have a target costing, you will come to know how much you are incurring for a specified product, what is the revenue that you are getting. So when you have individual split up of the cost, you will straight away be in a position to know, as I said, cost centers. So it is only a mere cost center that is not in a position to generate any revenue or profit. So you can start eliminating those things. So we can, as and when the need arises, so we can implement those techniques. So in your own organization, there may be different strategies, different techniques you are adopting for different brands, different units which are producing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?